So how were you involved when you first started?
Um, well, when I first started, they kind of helped me out kind of before the Wounded Warrior Project was the Wounded Warrior Project because I was hurt in 2003 during the initial invasion of Iraq. So at that point, they were part of another program. They were a program of another organization. So I was kind of part of it as they broke off from that and turned into Wounded Warrior Project. And I was a full-time employee of theirs, their director of their alumni program from '06 to '08, and then from '08 to about uh, I think it was 2013 maybe. I worked as a contractor for them, their strategic partnerships and uh, you know managing relationships for them.
So you're pretty involved, pretty close to what was going on with the company or the project as in general.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So have you been following what happened with the
yeah,
CEO and the
yeah.
COO?
It's kind of unfortunate to see everything that was going on, but yeah, I've been following it and trying not to get too excited about it.
Yeah. So what when you first saw what happened, what was your first thought?
Well, to be honest, I know everyone that's there. I mean, that there are a lot more employees from when I worked there, but I know the two individuals that were fired very well, pretty close friends with them. Um, and so there's, kind of a lot of emotions that are involved with it. Uh, Wounded Warrior Project has become a pretty big organization. So um, there's, obviously you don't want to see anything like that happen because they do so much good. They do so much good, more than probably all the other veterans organizations combined for our for my generation of wounded veterans. They've made more of an impact legislatively, awareness wise, and to individual warriors, probably than any other veterans organization. So, that's obviously hard to judge. That's just kind of a claim that I'm making, but I've seen it. It's not like I work for them anymore, so I kind of have no skin in the game. It's just I hate to see they're a very hardworking organization with people that work tremendously hard. So when you see their name getting dragged through the mud in the press, it's kind of disappointing.
Um, Speaking of disappointing, was it disappointing to find out that this had been going on, or were there any signs of it before?
Well, it's kind of false claims. There's not really much going on. It's There were a lot of misquotes from any news story that ran. WWP has always been transparent with all of their information. Their audits for all of their IRS audits are all on their website, and they always have been, and they've never been hidden. Um, you know, I think the CBS News story and some of the other stories claim that they were only donating 60%, 60% of the money that they raised was going into their programs. It's not true. It's more like over 81%. So there was a lot of uh, false information that was reported. In fact, the board of directors of the Wounded Warrior Project put out a press release with where all the claims are blatantly false. And that's one of the most frustrating things to see that people will latch onto the story and it's bad press, it's bad information. There are so many people in that organization that are doing good things and changing lives, and people will latch onto this story based on information from a few people, and it's heartbreaking.
And you especially probably are disappointed by seeing this because they helped you so much yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I was there very early on, so I wasn't necessarily totally helped out by Wounded Warrior Project as much as I was involved in watching the organization grow. From a small organization, there came a certain point when Wounded Warrior Project was not a small organization anymore. They weren't the grassroots organization that we started out as. They became a big behemoth organization. Now, there are different types of nonprofits. You have your nonprofits that are going to do things here and there, home improvements for veterans, post-traumatic stress programs, and latch onto their niche. Um, Wounded Warrior Project is not that organization. Wounded Warrior Project is going to do big things, pass legislation, institute huge programs and partnerships with big companies. It's kind of a different genre of veterans organization. So people have to know that. They have higher overhead. They're going to spend millions of dollars to run their organization. And I think where some of the questionable spending is what Wounded Warrior Project put a lot of money into their employees, into their strategic planning, into um, doing things for their employees. And I could see how some donors might have been thinking that that was questionable because it wasn't going right to programs for veterans. Um, but it's really a matter of interpretation. It's not like there were people that were embezzling money. It's not like there were horrible things going on. They were always guided by their board of directors. This wasn't a decision that was made by two people in the organization. It was the vision. It was the mission of the organization. Everyone knew what they were doing. Like I said, they were totally transparent in every move that they made. People could question it. Yeah, absolutely. People could question it. It's a lot of money. Um, but I know the two people that are involved, and they certainly don't deserve. Some of the comments that I've seen are just horrendous. I mean, these are two men that dedicated their entire life, even prior to starting Wounded Warrior Project. They worked in veterans organizations prior to that for many years before that. They dedicated their whole life to helping out veterans, and it was always for the best intentions. So people want to quibble over what way is the best way to do that. There were never any malintentions there. It was always just, there are multiple ways to skin a cat, and you know, Wounded Warrior Project, they are high visibility, and the big dog, draws a lot of the fire, unfortunately.
And then when you're the top two guys of that big dog, you're going to be the ones who have to face the consequences.
And I don't know. I can't say what exactly happened. I don't know the frame of mind that the board of directors was in firing them, or letting them go. Maybe they thought it was best because they had received so much press that they had to say that some heads had a role in the situation, and it's unfortunate. I don't know. I don't know what the situation was, but I know that um, they were two good men. They were certainly not doing anything harmful. Um, they were paid well, as they should be. They run a few $100 million a year organization. Who do you want running that organization? It's funny because I see comments. Oh, I run the organization. Yeah, buddy, we want you running the organization. You and all of your background, because you could make a comment. This is a hundreds of $1 million a year organization with programs, with they're on Capitol Hill. They're creating all these fantastic programs, partnerships with the biggest corporations, Fortune 500, Fortune 50 corporations, in the United States, and they have to interact with all these people all the time. It's no joke, and they're held to a higher standard, and they're constantly scrutinized. So it's no easy task. So, in my opinion, they deserve everything that they make, every single penny that they make. To me, it's not even an argument. Um, if I understand why people say, well, why does a CEO have to make, $400,000? They work for a nonprofit. Hey, it's a big company. I get where they're coming from, but if they don't want to donate to that type of nonprofit that is going to make the big impact, make the legislative changes, then they can donate to the smaller nonprofit that has a niche um, product or service, or what they do for a group of veterans. Hey, they're awesome. I myself would like to donate to them, because then you really feel like you're making a difference, you know? But if you donate $100,000 to Wounded Warrior Project, it's a drop in the bucket for them. You're not going to get the same attention as if you were to donate $100,000 to an organization whose annual budget is less than $1 million. You know, so it's a different ball game, and people want to sit there and criticize the organization, but the organization has done more good than harm. And you know, one of the things in the nonprofit world, um, that is very hard to judge, but how more nonprofits should be judged is based on the impact that they have. Um, you know, when I was there, Wounded Warrior Project passed legislation that gave injured service members anywhere from 25 to $100,000 within 2 weeks of being injured. That was because their family members were flying in from other states. They were, you know, there was a lot of stuff going on, and they realized that this is all coming out of their pockets. Well, Wounded Warrior Project passed that through Congress in 6 weeks. It's paid probably close to $1 billion. I mean, that's one of the things that they've done. They've done so many things on such a grand scale, that I really don't know any other organization that's accomplished so much. So when I see um, these quibbles over, you know, they took all their employees on this retreat. It wasn't to go to a spa. It was because they were doing strategic planning. They were getting together. They were focusing, and they accomplish a lot with what they do. Yeah, sure. Money could have been spent differently. It could have. It could have been. But that's a matter of, should I do this or should I do this? Not, it's black or white, wrong. There was never any intention to misappropriate money, and not spend it in the right way.
And so, with kind of the public backlash they're seeing, do you think this is something that they'll easily bounce back from, or something they'll have to work through?
It's definitely going to have to be something that they work with. People. Uh, you know, people don't forget so easily, and you hope that they do, because there's a lot of great people that work for the organization that work so hard and have dedicated their lives to helping out wounded service members. I mean, there are hundreds and thousands of stories from injured service members of how Wounded Warrior Project changed their life. And one of the things that Wounded Warrior Project realized is that it doesn't end when you come home. It doesn't end a year after you got your injury. It doesn't end 5 years. This is a lifetime struggle that a lot of these veterans have. So that's what Wounded Warrior Project was always preparing for. So I hope that it continues, because the needs of veterans change over the years. And so you hope that they could still make the impact that they've had in the past, you know, 12, 13 years. You hope that they could still have that impact, because it's important. You know, it really is. And like I said, they're a big nonprofit. There are other big nonprofits, and I guarantee you, if you compare their financials with WWP financials, WWE will probably look better. It's just, for some reason, they drew fire. There were, you know, the original stories that came out were from veterans that were fired from the organization, um, and I think they probably had the mindset that veterans should be able to work for a veterans organization. That's not necessarily true. I don't care who you are. You know, you have to do your job, and that's who should work for a veterans organization. So that's the most important factor to me. Um, and a lot of people had hurt feelings and backlash at the organization and said, "Well, they shouldn't be doing this. Well, they shouldn't be doing that." Yeah, maybe, maybe not. But it was never clear cut I know that when I worked there, the focus was always on doing the right thing with the donors' money. And the number one focus was always on the mission, which is to honor and empower this generation of wounded veterans. And that was always the primary focus of everyone that worked for the organization. And I know it's the same.
Well, I hate to jump in and cut you off, but we're running out of
Yes.
time. We got to get this
No,
ready
that's fine.
for show later tonight. Thank you again for sitting down with us. I really appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
All right, so take care. Thanks again.
Yep, absolutely. Take it easy, guys.
You too.